Hello and good evening, and welcome back to another Blue Bookmark. Tonight I'm joined by a very special guest, Heather Webb, who is an author of several books. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
Thank you so much. We almost weren't going to have this because, as you know, there's winter storms all over the place. I'm in Kentucky, and you said you're in Connecticut.
I am. And as soon as you said, I'm not sure we have ice, and I didn't know where you were located. I went, oh my God, do we? And I went and checked because that would not be an unusual occurrence for us in February. So.
Right, I know. And we've lucked out and not had a lot yet, but obviously if there's too much ice on the power lines, can't really have internet. So
Right. Well, here's hoping that just passes you by.
I know. My dad, I texted him earlier and I was like, I hope we don't get anything. And he was like, we're gonna get something. But hopefully we don't get anything too bad. So you have a very busy week coming up.
I do.
With the book being published on Tuesday.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is I'm actually new to this group. And I'm excited about it. I was looking through it and it's familiar in book talk, but it has its own unique flavor. And so I love that I've discovered it. And I'm so excited to be here talking with you guys. And I'm looking forward to getting to know the readers here. So that's really cool. But yes, so Tuesday, you know how the camera is.
I love that cover. Yes.
I'm like, which direction? Okay. Yes.
That's perfect.
So the next ship home. There we go. I did not mean to match. That's a little cheesy. I do have gold nail polish. That was on purpose, but nothing else was on purpose. Yeah. So the next ship home. It's out on Tuesday. I'm really excited. I haven't had a solo novel released in quite some time, in several years. I've been doing a lot of collaborations. I also co-write with Hazel Gaynor, and so we've had a couple of books out together, and so this is really exciting. It's a book about Ellis Island, a place that I am super fascinated by, and I spent a lot of time there researching and chatting with the librarian and taking photos and roving all over the island and sort of digging in.
That is so cool.
To learn about all the legends behind the scenes and the real deal. And so far people seem to really be loving the book, and that obviously makes me so excited to hear. So, so I very much loved writing it. So
yeah, I've only read one other book about Ellis Island. It was A Fall of Marigolds.
Susan Meisner, who's lovely.
Good. Yeah. So as soon as I read the synopsis on yours, I was like, oh, I've got to read that.
And this is really different. So I've read Susan's book, and she does the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire in conjunction with Ellis Island. There's a nurse who works there in 1911, and then of course the 9/11 Twin Towers catastrophe. But so the thing about Ellis Island is it changed so drastically, even, every few years, just depending on who was running it, and all the new immigration laws. So 1911 looked very different than when my book is set, which is 1902. And that feels like it's not that much sooner, but it's a decade made a huge difference back then. For example, the hospital had just opened. So I don't have, my main character is actually a matron, and a matron was someone who worked with the inspectors, and they were kind of gophers. They ran around helping the nurses. They helped all kinds of people, and the women and the children that were detained there for any period of time. So it was a really different, I kind of dig into a really different aspect of Ellis Island than Sue Meisner's book, which is lovely
really
too.
Interesting.
So
now you brought up, you have a co-author.
I do.
So that has to be very different process. I have read one of your all's books, Meet Me in Monaco. I really liked that one a lot.
Oh, thank you.
And I thought what was that? The book she had about the Titanic, or similar to the Titanic. I thought you wrote on that one too, but did you not?
I did not. No. And actually, so Hazel and I have the same literary agent, and we met we both had our debut novels release a month apart. And so The Girl Who Came Home actually came out right around the same time that my first book, Becoming Josephine, about Josephine Bonaparte and Napoleon, released. Yeah. And so our agent kept sort of throwing us together. We ended up doing an anthology, a World War I anthology called Fall of Poppies.
I've got to read that book. It's on my list.
Oh, there's a bunch of authors who contributed.
Yes.
Sometimes those little
Some
short stories favorites. Are fun. Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Okay. So hopefully you like that. But we just loved each other after working on that and thought, let's work on something else, maybe just the two of us. And then we were off and running. So we actually haven't announced this yet, but we just sold our 4th collaboration. It's very much, it's like we're at the ground floor level. So we're just starting it. So that won't be out for a couple of years, but yeah, talk about a partnership going well. It was really, really different from the solo writing. And I love both.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after working on my own stuff for a while, I really miss Hazel. And she's been saying that to me. I can't wait till we're working on a book together again. Because you just, it's really nice having that sounding board and that friend.
Yes.
To go through all of the ups and downs of writing and publishing and, together. So
do you all live close by?
No. Okay. So I live in New England and Hazel lives outside of Dublin.
Oh, so not close at all.
No. And she's English, but her husband, she just got her Irish citizenship. Her husband is Irish and her kids are half and half, right? So she just got her citizenship there. She's lived there for 20 years. And we work on books together through Google Docs.
Yeah.
So we really have a grand old time. We joke about our brains. We have one brain. I mean, as soon as I am starting to think something, she says it. We do a whole lot of that. So yeah, it's really fun.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So you told us how you met because of your agent, and so your writing process, you kind of do you outline and like, okay, I'm going to take this character, you take this character, or I've got this chapter.
We do characters. We pick different voices. That way we can sort of preserve. Yeah, you want the characters to sound different from each other, and then you want the story to mesh really well by the end. So we both edit everything, but when we first write, the first draft, we don't edit each other's stuff. We just kind of flow with the story, and then we do a lot of talking through plot points because things come up.
Right.
And then when you're writing by yourself, it's funny because I also do that. I do a lot of figuring out the plot points and stuff, and I do it out loud, but I'm either talking to myself, walking laps around the neighborhood, getting really, really strange looks, or I call my critique partners and I chat with them. And they're awesome. You will talk through different stuff. And for people who don't know what a critique partner is, it's just a friend that's also a writer that reads your stuff and gives you notes and things like that so that, the book's stronger.
Yeah. I like that you all do characters because I've read some writing teams before where they've taken like chapters and you get to that next chapter and you're like, gosh, this sounds like it was written by a completely different person. And it was.
Right. And you want it to be really seamless. You want it to feel like it was written by one person. And I think it takes a special relationship to do that. And it's not something you can most of the time set out to do. We just thought we would give it a try and didn't even know if our styles would mesh or our personalities. I mean, we knew we liked each other, but we didn't know, writing is very
personal.
It's very personal. Yeah. And it's amazing that it worked. I mean, we don't fight. We don't, very rarely do we even disagree. I mean, on occasion we'll disagree and then we'll hash something out, but it's super mild and it's typically over a glass of wine. That's
good.
Yeah.
We've got to interview another writing team once, Christina Lauren, and
yes, they're wonderful.
Love their books too. They do another really good job of being a writing team.
It's funny you say that. They came to mind when you mentioned that. We did a podcast with them, and they are fun, and they are so
they're hilarious.
They are funny, and that you can see like their different personalities, and yet they work so well as a team. It's really great to see.
And then I got to talk to Lauren. I never say her last name right. Willig.
Yeah, Lauren Willie.
And their writing teams are really cool too.
Yeah,
So,
Beatrice Williams and Karen White. Yeah, it's always kind of amazing to see a bunch work together like that.
Now, are all three of those on that anthology that you wrote?
Yes.
Actually, you all should just have a big historical
Beatrice
fiction
and Lauren
party.
Was. What's that?
Y'all should just have a big historical fiction party of all these people.
Well, we kind of do. So
that is so cool.
It's been a while because COVID is crappy. Right. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's on my list to talk about.
Yeah, but there's this organization called the Historical Novel Society, and they host a conference in the U.S. every other year, and then on the off years, it's hosted in the U.K. in various locations. And so yeah, a whole bunch of us get together and we hang out. There's a big book signing, and there's a whole bunch of workshops, and
that's really
lots of drinks at the bar, and
my kind of scene.
Yeah, really fun, really fun. For sure.
So, okay. So I've got, you're a solo writer, a collaborating author, and you're also an editor. Yes. How do you juggle working on so many different projects?
Yeah.
Or are you like a one-track mind?
No. It's challenging. Sometimes it goes really well. Sometimes I'm good at switching off. Other times, not so much. I have a hard time saying no. I'm getting better at it. It's not easy. As a overachiever, a former high school teacher and track coach, a mom, like we're going 100 miles an hour, and I like to help, and so I just have a hard time saying no. Like I said, I'm working on that, but I have actually found that working on more than one project at a time is actually very good for my creativity, because I can work on something for a bit until I get stuck. And then I will switch over to the other thing and work on that for a while. And they kind of inspire each other, even if they're completely different topics.
Right. Yeah.
It sometimes while I'm working through one issue, it will spark something in the back of my mind about what the other book needs. And so I'm finding that that's really cool. The editing mixed in there is tough.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for a while. I've had a lot of great clients, lots and lots actually at this point. And I enjoy it. But I definitely do less of it now than I used to. I take fewer on because I just have, my deadlines have really increased, and which is it's a good problem.
Right. Yeah. Good problem to have.
But the teacher in me still really enjoys working with other writers, and diagnosing a book. Like, how do we, what needs tweaking? How do we fix this?
Right.
That kind of thing.
So were you an English teacher then?
No, I was a French and Spanish teacher.
Oh,
mostly
wow.
French, actually. Yeah. Not funny. No history, even though I write historical fiction.
You're a historical fiction writer.
Yeah. But I kind of think, if you're into language,
right,
that all kind of makes sense. I love language. In fact, the main character, well, there's two, but one of the main characters, she wants to be a translator. She discovers this as she starts working in Ellis Island as the matron. She's got an affinity for languages, and she's really brilliant. And she picks up phrases here and there, and learns that, I can talk to these people and help these people if I know what they're saying.
Right, yeah.
And it's a window into their culture. And with that comes understanding, right? Instead of fear and prejudice and those kinds of things. So, and I love all of that. And I very much channeled my foreign language teacher into this character, I think, in a lot of ways. I wanted to show how powerful language can be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you brought up COVID, and how has that kind of affected your career this past 2 years?
Well, so 2019 was insane. So that was the year that, right before 2020, that was the year Hazel and I had just published Meet Me in Monaco. It became a bestseller, which was exciting.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of a tour. This is about Grace Kelly's wedding, and a British press photographer and a French perfumer that meet through her wedding. And so, you're in the south of France, you get all this yummy, you've read it, right? You get a lot of this yummy, French Riviera vibes. And so we had a lot of fun with that. And then Ribbons of Scarlett, it was a French Revolution novel that I co-wrote actually with 5 other authors: Kate Quinn, Stephanie Dre, Eliza Knight. Yeah. And so we, and Laura Camoy. So we each took a section of the book and wrote it, and then we promoted it. So I was on the road a ton in 2019. So at the end of that year, I was so burnt, just like crispy burnt, and like, I'm not going anywhere for a while. I'm just going to write. And then the pandemic hit, and I just ate my words.
Yeah.
Is that, we were stuck inside, and it was that especially when we first discovered it, it was really terrifying. All of those first several months, just slowed everything way down. My kids were home. I was homeschooling. It was really difficult to meet my writing schedule demands. The book, a work in progress that I'm finishing now, was turned in 6 months late because I could not, and I'm never late. I'm early.
You're a perfectionist.
I tend to be early. I'm one of those. And so, but I was 6 months late. I just could not with my kids.
How old are they?
So much. 14, soon to be 15, and 12. And of course, then they were 12 and 11, 10.
Yeah.
And anyone with tweens or teens knows that the pandemic has been very hard on all of us, but I think the biggest effect has been on that age group.
Yeah.
A lot of mental health issues, a lot of, all kinds of stuff going on. So that was a huge struggle, but we're getting on the other side of it, I think. So that's good.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Megan, are you a writer?
No,
not. Oh, you're not.
No, but I always joke. One of these days I will write one, and I have lots of notes everywhere. It's just not compiled.
It's yet. Okay. Listen, if you can do anything else, I recommend it. That's what they say. Isn't there like some quote, and I forget, it's somebody famous. I don't think it's Stephen King, but it's somebody like that who said, if you can do anything else, don't write.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the business, I think.
But,
so you're a reader. Are you a blogger also?
I'm a reader, and we have, the Blue Bookmark is a Facebook group that was started in 2019, and we started it, and we do monthly challenges. So we get creative and do little, like, maybe one month will be a bingo. In January, we always do a team challenge. And so I have a team, Susie has a team, and Sarah has a team. And people pick what team they're going to be on. And all month, you log your points by you logging your books that you've read. And you get a point per 100 pages and 1 point per audiobook. And so in the month of January, we read over 500,000 pages. So 500,000 pages our group read.
That's amazing.
On Facebook.
I love this. This is really unique.
Yeah. I feel like we are the only group that kind of does.
You are, as far as I've seen.
I mean, there are other groups that have reading challenges, not to discredit that.
No,
but we have something unique every single month. And I say that I try not to be in a lot of other Facebook book groups because I don't want to take ideas like subconsciously and then use them. So I don't really know what other groups are doing. But then I have Instagram that I post on and try to do a lot of NetGalley and that type of thing. But no, pretty much I'm a stay-at-home mom, and my kids are now school age. So reading is basically my 24/7 hobby. But well, so
good for you. You know what? That's one of those things they take into adulthood if they learn to read young. No, it's really a really good thing.
Yeah, I had to go to the library today and pick up every Dogman book that they had, so
we have the boys all of those.
They could read those during this ice storm. So hopefully they'll get to that. Now, my oldest one, historical fiction's my favorite genre, and he has really gotten into the I Survived books.
Yeah, I know those. We read those too.
With those, and Ranger in Time and Magic Tree House. So I can't wait to see what he picks up and starts to read. But if I ever write a book, I know I want it to be historical fiction and dual timeline. So that's like my
right.
favorite trope.
That's a good place to start.
So that I know for sure that I want to do that. But I don't have tough skin at all. Like, I don't even like to leave a negative review because I don't want to hurt the author's feelings.
It's not an easy thing.
So I don't know if I could ever.
Some authors will read all of their stuff. I'll read a few here and there, but in general, I just kind of avoid them. I feel like reviews are really for readers.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is I'm a crazy avid reader too, and I'm in a local book club with there's 12 of us, and we're really into it, and
that's awesome.
And so I read reviews of other books all the time because we're picking which books we want to read. Right. And so, you can't help but check out some of the stuff that you have, but in general, I mostly avoid them because the book's done. It's not like I can change it, and it is what it is. And you're
not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
It's not, you're not. So, and the other thing is every story every person brings their own emotional experience and lens.
Yes.
To a story, so something you see in it may not be what I see, and vice versa. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it, really.
Right. Yeah, and how boring would it be if everybody liked the same exact cookie cutter?
Exactly.
Things.
Right. Right. So. Yeah. So in general, there's no need. I just try to avoid them.
So what are your favorite? I do have that question on here, but Susie also brings that up in the comments. What are your favorite genres and your favorite authors to read since you're an avid reader?
Yeah. Okay. So of course I love historical fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I read tons of nonfiction because it's part of my research.
Yeah.
And and I'm actually going to hold these books up because they came in the mail today.
We love a book haul. Yes. I love her.
I love Marie Benedict, and she's wonderful as a person too. She's very friendly, sweet, lovely, very intelligent.
She comments on, if I ever tag her in anything, she comments on something very sweet.
Oh, yeah, she's wonderful. And I'm actually doing an event with her and these other two women. I'm going to show you their books next month for Women's History Month. And so this is why I got the books in the mail. But The Double Life of Catherine Clark, and it's Catherine Gregorio, and it's about a journalist who got behind she was a wire reporter, got behind the Iron Curtain.
Oh, okay.
In the 50s. That's nonfiction.
That's exciting.
And then The Woman They Could Not Silence by Kate Moore, who wrote, you probably can't see this tiny little bit, Radium Girls.
I was going to say, that is giving me Radium Girls vibes. So that's where I saw that name at.
Yeah. So of course, historical fiction and nonfiction, I just read lots of because that's my genre. But I love suspense. Mm-hmm. But I like suspense. I tend to shy away from like super gory detail. I'm more into the psychological stuff. Like Julie Clark's books I love. Mm-hmm. Hank Felipe Ryan. There's a few others. Oh, there's many others, honestly. Kate Eddie.
Sherry Lapina does that genre so well.
I haven't read her, but she's in my queue. So
yes, I've read every single thing she wrote, and they're all great.
Then I definitely need to bump her up. Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I read romance. I love rom-coms. I read historical romance. I probably only read a few of those a year at this point because I grew up reading them, and so I still sprinkle them in, but I don't quite read them as often. But I do love rom-coms. Yeah. I love fantasy. I love YA. I like contemporary YA. I like I read really kind of widely.
Very
horror.
eclectic.
I avoid horror.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of horror either.
Yeah, I can't sleep at night. I'm a big baby. I'll read a gothic. I love a gothic or a good ghost story, but that's kind of different from horror.
Right.
So I'm kind of all over the place, but definitely, of course, historicals and suspense are probably my top two, and then rom-coms. They're all kind of up there.
Yeah, I think probably historical fiction. I don't know, historical fiction, romance, and like the psychological. The police procedure is probably my favorite in that.
Like
area.
The whodunit.
Yeah.
Those are fun.
Or like I've been really big into like English-based police procedures, so like DCI, whoever investigating a case. But I recently just started in the past like 2 months reading historical romance. So I just finished the first Bridgerton, and then the first of her series before that, and Lisa Kleypas.
Yes.
And I'm really finding my lane in that genre. I absolutely love it.
You should try Loretta Chase.
It's on my list. I've got some on hold.
The best historical romance I have ever read, ever, and I have read mountains of historical romance, is Lord of Scoundrels, which is a
It's on my
hilarious
list.
title. You have to read it. It's so good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you've got that on the list already.
Yes. And let's see, there's Good Girl's Guide to Rakes that they just sent me. I got a widget from NetGalley for that one. So I think, what is her name? Eva Chase?
Yeah.
I think is her name. So that looks really good. Okay, so yeah, Susie asked, what is your research process like before writing? So like, how do you get an idea and then carry through on researching it before you write a book?
Yeah, so I tend to what I'd call front load. So once I have come up with an idea, or it may not even be fully formed. Maybe I'm thinking I love this era and this location, and I start digging around, or maybe it's a character, but I don't know a ton about them or how I'm going to weave them into a story. But I will just start reading a ton. I'll look up, and I don't just do like biographies, which I definitely do. But I pick up books about that era and everything surrounding it just so I can have context. And usually more of the story comes out that way. So I'll spend usually about 6 or 8 weeks of doing nothing but reading, just buying tons and tons of books, maybe working a tiny bit on an outline or a character map. And for me, a character map basically is just sort of looking at what types of who the protagonist is, what I think I want them to look like, not physically, but, emotionally, and these kinds of things. So I start there, and then it's crazy. I cannot be finished researching, but the minute I can see the first line of the book in my head, it's time to write.
Yeah.
It's this weird thing. And I never change my first line. So
first instincts.
It's bizarre. I change plenty in the book, but for whatever reason, that first line,
I love that.
It always comes after I've done some research. And then, after I write the first draft, I kind of research in dribs and drabs. The second draft is like kind of filling in the blanks and looking up more stuff and, that kind of thing. But I definitely front load a lot so that I have a good knowledge base. And I write a historical outline just to kind of stay on track.
One of my biggest pet peeves.
It's really not. It's general.
Yeah. In historical fiction is when authors, they don't research enough. And then they have something like something they would never wear in that time period, or a medicine that wasn't even invented yet.
I gotta tell you though, it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I have mistakes. I have mistakes in my books here and there, and it's not, for some people, it's because they don't research enough. And then for some of us, it's, I could only research, or I could research and then write. And so I usually, because I love the research and the reading part, and I mean, if you've read anything by me, if you read The Next Ship Home, you can tell that there's a really strong, immersive, research-based book there, because I love that stuff. I love to learn. I love teaching. It's the teacher in me, I think, that I want to share it with readers. So yeah, but there are people who, there's sort of lighter historicals that have less, fact-based material. And then there's those that are much, the whole backbone of the story is research.
And you have to, balance that line too, because if it's too researchy, it reads like a textbook.
Exactly.
And you don't want that.
No.
Now, I will say, Ken Follett, his books do read like a textbook, but they're so freaking good that he can get away with it. But anybody else, I don't know if I would like that.
I think Ken Follett broke into the market a long time ago. And so I think fiction has really changed.
Yeah.
Even since I started writing 12 years ago, it has changed again. Our attention spans are really different. We're competing for so much attention, like media-wise, between podcasts and, TV, movies, everything's streaming. There's just this big competition for everyone's attention. And so that has changed fiction drastically. And I think if Ken Follett had been published today originally, he's a brilliant guy, but I think he would have had a much harder time breaking into the market,
That's a really good point. And a
Yeah,
lot of
it's just
people, they'll sum
changed.
up, oh, it's so slow. Well, it's
Yeah,
history. I mean,
that's well, and when was his first book published? I mean, was it? I don't even know. I'd have to look. Is it in the 80s or the 90s?
I think it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
I
So
want to say it was like 88 or something like
we
that.
didn't even have internet. I mean,
Right.
there was computers, but nobody was on them. You know.
Right.
So you have to. That changed things drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I research a lot along the way. I love going to places and scouting them out. I love to feel sort of the essence of these
Yeah.
places, and I do my best to try to visit them whenever I can. It can be expensive, so that's kind of
Right.
that's
Business
hard.
expense.
But yeah, I save my pennies to make it work
Mm-hmm.
because I just think it adds so much to the book, and it adds
Right.
when you're talking about like promotional wise, I can say I know exactly what it smells like, what
Right.
like the different points on Ellis Island. I can talk about it at length because I spent a lot of time there. Now I don't live far from there. But I like my book's set in Paris. I've spent a lot of time in Paris for this reason to really kind of immerse myself in this city and get the feel of it. So, but that's fun.
really
That's not.
exciting.
Is that work? I don't know if that's work.
I don't know if that can be called work.
I'm walking
But
around
that
with a
sounds
notebook
so
in a
fun.
place I'm dying to go to is like my idea of heaven. I just need
Yeah.
wine and it's good.
Yeah. If I could go anywhere, right now would be England. One of these days, I'll make it there.
Well, so my collaboration with Hazel, my new one, is set in England, and then
Sign me up.
my brand new work in progress is also set in 1925 London. So that's my next hot spot that I'm headed to. I'm just trying
That's
to
such a
figure out
good time
COVID.
period.
What's that?
That's such a good time period in between the two wars. I really
Yeah,
like that.
there's just there's so much going on, and society was changing, and
Less from the aristocracy and more into
yeah,
becoming your own man.
yep, yeah, the middle class, and
Yeah.
and I'm kind of looking at lower class again, like I did in the next ship home, but it's a bit sexier in terms of the subject matter.
Super pumped for that.
Yeah, there's a lot more danger. Well, I don't know. There's
Exciting.
danger in this one too. Danger's good.
Yeah.
In
I've
books.
recently become obsessed with the royal family. Anything and everything that I can get my
Excellent.
hands on. All right. Well, okay. So, any word of advice? We kind of talked about that briefly. Word of advice to any aspiring authors.
Yes, I have so much advice. So much. I'm not going to bore you with all of it, but I will say, let's see what the most important thing is. One of the most important things is to finish a first draft.
Yeah.
Stop revising your first 2 chapters over and over again. Stop revising your first 50 pages over and over again. Just stop. Keep going forward. Get to the end of the first draft. When you have a first draft, you can change it. There, you have all this material. You can layer it. You can cut. You can move stuff around. You can make it beautiful. You can deepen it. But if you keep on harping on those first few chapters, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of people can write an intro.
Right.
It's the middle and the end that gets you closer to being an author. Get you closer to being published. So that my first most important piece of advice is finish a first draft. It does not have to be perfect or pretty. It's not going to be. It's impossible for it to be. You have too much to learn yet. And learn about your story and your characters. Like I have to learn about them every single time I start a new book. I have to learn who these people are. My first draft is really kind of an exploratory draft. So,
any opinions about if wanting to be a writer if you didn't go to college or to a writing workshop?
None of that matters.
Just do it, right?
Matters. Yeah, I mean, the most important thing I think about learning how to be a writer and being a good writer is to read as much as possible. Keep reading. If you're an avid reader and you know how to read mindfully, in other words, when you're reading, can you study the structure? Can you see what the characters, really analyze these characters and think about what they're doing and saying and why? How did the author make them come across as sympathetic? Like, what are the nuts and bolts? These things are a lot more important than what your degree is in. I do not have a degree in writing or publishing or English. I have a degree in French and I have a degree in cultural geography. Neither of these things have anything to do with writing historical novels. Not really. So yeah, if you are willing to learn and practice, it's a skill just like playing the guitar. The more you practice, the better you get at it. Then you can very well write a novel and write a beautiful one. So don't get hung up on your education. I think education's important, but I think you can self-educate extremely well.
Yeah.
So,
especially now with the internet and everything, at our fingertips.
But books are so important. I think that, they're showing all these studies about the correlations between readers and writers. That the writers that write extremely well, they do just an absolute ton of reading. There's obviously it's a language piece that's connecting in your brain in there, so yeah.
I love that.
So don't be ashamed or put off by the education piece at all.
Yeah, I think so many people don't do anything because they think, well, I don't have the credentials, or I don't know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they don't ever take that step.
The only way you're going to get there is to go for it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And if you need to take a class on something or even just take a writer's workshop that's a few weeks or whatever it is, do it then and do it your way. It doesn't have to be, there's no by the book way. Everybody gets into publishing in different ways. So yeah.
It's super exciting. Well, I greatly appreciate you so much taking the time to talk to me, and I'm excited for your book on Tuesday. I've read the first chapter, and I'm hoping to get it finished by Tuesday, and I will be sharing it all over the place.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you for reading, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hopefully you can come back again in the future, and we can talk about this new, what did you say? Sexy, dangerous book set in England. So we're very excited about that.
All right. Take care, and thanks again for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.